When an AI makes a huge decision about your life, like for a loan, a job, or even a medical diagnosis, how can we really be sure it's fair and safe? For a long time now, many of these powerful AI systems have basically been a black box, with their logic totally hidden from us. Well, the European Union is tackling this problem head-on with a really powerful new tool, a public database designed to bring some serious transparency to the world of artificial intelligence. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll really dig into this black box problem. Then we'll look at the EU's big solution and see exactly how their new database works. After that, we'll see it in action in the real world. And finally, we'll ask the big question. Could this become the new global model for regulating AI? All right, so before we jump into the solution, we've got to get a solid handle on the problem it's trying to solve. And really, at its core, it's all about decisions being made in a way that's, well, not transparent at all. I mean, this is the fundamental question, isn't it? If an algorithm turns you down for a loan or flags you as a security risk, and nobody can give you a straight answer as to why, that just destroys trust. It brings up all these serious worries about fairness, hidden biases, and who's actually accountable, especially when these tools are being used in some of the most important parts of our lives. This is exactly what regulators and, frankly, all of us are up against. This black box idea means that the super complex internal logic of an AI is just hidden. We can't see it. And that lack of transparency, it's not just a techie issue, it's a huge societal one. It's the perfect environment for mistrust to grow, and it makes it incredibly hard to be sure these systems are even working safely and ethically. So what's really fascinating here is how the EU decided to face this challenge. The absolute centerpiece of their whole strategy is one specific part of their big AI Act, Article 71. And this is it, the EU High-Risk AI Database. Now, don't just picture some dusty old filing cabinet. This is a digital registry, totally open to the public, and it's billed to be the single source of truth for the most powerful AI systems being used in Europe. This is the EU's main tool for prying open that black box. So you might be asking, what exactly counts as high risk? Well, the EU is being really smart and targeted about this. They're zeroing in on systems that could cause serious harm, either to our safety or to our basic rights. We're talking about AI used for facial recognition, for managing our power grids, for making hiring decisions, for deciding who gets a loan, for policing, and even in our court systems. These are the places where transparency is absolutely non-negotiable. Okay, that all sounds good in theory, but how does this database actually work in practice? Let's walk through the whole process, from the moment an AI is registered to what you and I can actually see. The whole thing is pretty structured. First, the company that built the AI has to determine if their system fits into one of those high-risk categories. Then, the system has to go through what's called a conformity assessment. You can think of it like a really tough audit. It checks everything from data quality and cybersecurity to making sure there's good human oversight. It has to prove it meets all the strict rules in the AI Act. Once it passes, the company, or sometimes the public authority using it, has to register it. And only then does all that key information become public. And it's very clear who's on the hook for this. For the most part, it's the AI providers who have to enter the data. But, and this is a huge deal, public authorities, like police departments or government agencies, have to do it too. If they deploy a high-risk AI system, they are required to register that use themselves. It's basically a public declaration of how our taxpayer-funded institutions are using these incredibly powerful technologies. And this just perfectly shows the balancing act at the heart of this law. On the one hand, the public gets to see really crucial info. Who made the AI, exactly what it's supposed to be used for, and the official paperwork saying it's compliant. But on the other hand, the law also protects really sensitive stuff. Things like confidential data from police investigations or a company's secret sauce, their trade secrets, won't be out there for everyone to see. It's a very careful balance between being open and protecting security and intellectual property. So now we know what this database is and how it gets populated, but how does it go from being just a big list to an active, powerful tool that regulators can use to keep us safe? This is where the database really gets its teeth. It lets the authorities get ahead of problems. They can scan the database to spot trends, maybe like a sudden rush of new AI tools being used for hiring. And, critically, they can also flag situations where a company claims its system isn't high risk to make sure no one's trying to fly under the radar. The database becomes this evidence-based trigger, letting them focus their attention where the risks are actually the highest.
And what happens when something does go wrong? That's when the database becomes a critical first response tool. Just imagine a facial recognition system at a big public event messes up and causes a bunch of wrongful detentions. Instead of scrambling for days trying to figure out who even made the system, authorities can instantly pull up the provider's contact info, the system's intended purpose, and its entire compliance history. It gives them all the basic facts they need to launch a fast, targeted investigation right away. So all of this brings us to the final, really big picture question. What the EU is doing here is a first for the world, and it has massive global implications. Are we looking at the blueprint that everyone else is going to end up following?
Now, one of the most important things to get is that this law didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It changed a lot. The first proposal back in 2021 was way narrower. It only focused on standalone AI systems. But the final law we have now, it's much, much broader. It covers all high-risk systems, even AI that's just a small component inside another product, like in a self-driving car or a medical scanner. That big expansion shows they were trying really hard to close any loopholes and make sure the oversight was truly effective.
And this quote from the analysis really just nails the core principle. The final version of this law isn't about just one thing. It's about finding that tough but absolutely essential balance between transparency and protecting data. And the ultimate goal? To build an AI ecosystem that is both fair and inclusive for everyone. Which leaves us with this one last thought to chew on. The EU has a history of setting global rules. It's often called the Brussels effect. So, will this database become the new gold standard for AI trust and accountability around the world? Or will the critics be right, and will these detailed rules end up being a barrier that actually stifles the very innovation it's trying to guide? The answer to that is going to shape the future of AI, not just in Europe, but for all of us.